The selfie-oriented niche may be a small one, but still active. Every now and then a manufacturer will launch a phone with a high-resolution front camera, assisted by an LED flash, and some software enhancements to boost your self-made mugshots. Today, we take a look at the Asus ZenFone 4 Selfie Pro. As you are probably guessing by the name, it's a phone that wants to appeal to the social networking, selfie-loving crowd. This one ups the ante with a secondary, wide-angle selfie camera on the front, and a portrait mode for both the front and rear-facing snappers. When a phone is called the Selfie Pro, you would expect that its cameras are something special, specifically on the front. So, the ZenFone 4 Selfie Pro has a 16MP main camera, a 12MP front-facing sensor, which can take 24MP photos via some magic, and a secondary, 5MP selfie camera with a 120 degrees wide-angle lens. To top it off, we have a DSLR emulating portrait mode, which promises beautiful bokeh behind our subject. Sounds great on paper. How does it perform? The details that come from the main camera are quite sharp, a pleasure to look at, even. Color reproduction is mostly accurate, but can sometimes be too cold or washed out. We took the phone out on a cloudy day, we had plenty of light with no direct sunlight, and it still struggled with keeping highlights from burning out and shadows from disappearing in a deep black. It's also worth noting that if HDR is left at auto, the phone seems to pick the weirdest moments to turn it on. One time, we pointed the viewfinder at the gravel-covered ground and HDR kicked in, for example. The HDR itself is not terrible, but it's also far from the best. Sometimes, it does very little to save the highlights, yet it boosts colors and shadows in such a way that the image looks a bit flat and unnatural. The lack of an optical image stabilization means that you need to keep steady, especially when you shoot indoors. It's quite easy to get a blurred photo with this phone, but we admit we are spoiled by the many OIS-equipped phones we've handled. Okay, let's go to the front cameras. This phone is all about the selfies, after all. The main front snapper has a 12MP sensor and it performs just as well as the back-mounted camera. Details are okay, but shaky hands are your mortal enemy. Colors are usually accurate if a bit cold. Sometimes it goes haywire and adds way too much green, photos 23 and 24. The dynamic range here is also pretty bad. Highlights are easy to burn out, and if you happen to be wearing a dark shirt, it could easily turn into a big, black spot in your selfie. What about that 24MP dual-pixel mode? The Asus ZenFone 4 Selfie Pro has a 12MP Sony IMX362 sensor, which employs two photodiodes under each pixel. So, Asus uses some algorithm magic to split the information from the pixels and stitch it together for large 24MP selfies. Sounds interesting on paper, but while we do get larger photos, we wouldn't say they were more detailed. The process requires you to stand extra steady during the snapping, even more than for a standard HDR photo. Naturally, getting a picture with no blur is a hard task, which we failed at a few times.